I might try one other change, he said to himself. Before I try cutting the tape, I will prick new punch holes in the tape and see what presently emerges. It will be interesting because I will not know what the holes I make mean. Using the tip of the micro tool, he punched several holes at random on the tape, as close to the scanner as he could manage. He did not want to wait. I wonder if you'll see it, he said to Sarah. Apparently not, insofar as he could extrapolate. Something may show up, he said to her. I just want to warn you. I don't want you to be afraid. Oh dear, Sarah said tinily. He examined his wristwatch. 1 minute passed, and a second, a third, and then, in the center of the room, appeared a flock of green and black ducks. They quacked excitedly, rose from the floor, fluttered against the ceiling in a mass of feathers, wings, and frantic in their vast urge, their instinct to get away. Ducks, Paul said, marveling. I punched a hole for a flight of wild ducks. Now something else appeared. A park bench with an elderly, tattered man seated on it, reading a torn, bent newspaper. He looked up, dimly made out Paul, smiled briefly at him with badly made dentures, and then returned to his folded back newspaper. He read on. Do you see him? Paul asked Sarah. And the ducks? At that moment, the ducks and the park bum disappeared. Nothing remained of them. The interval of their punch hole had quickly dissipated. This had quickly passed. They weren't real, Sarah said. Were they? So how? You're not real, he told Sarah. You're a stimulus factor on my reality tape, a punch hole that can be glazed over. Do you also have an existence in another reality tape, or one in an objective reality? He did not know. He couldn't tell. Perhaps Sarah did not know either. Perhaps she existed in 1,000 reality tapes, perhaps on every reality tape ever manufactured. If I cut the tape, he said, you will be everywhere and nowhere, like everything else in the universe. At least, as far as I'm aware of it. Sarah faltered. I am real. I want to know you completely, Paul said. To do that, I must cut the tape. If I don't do it now, I'll do it some other time. It's inevitable that eventually I'll do it. So why wait? He asked himself. And there is always the possibility that Densman has reported back to my maker, and they will be making moves to head me off. Because perhaps I'm endangering their property myself. You make me wish I had gone to the office after all, Sarah said, her mouth turned down with dimpled gloom. Go, Paul said. I don't want to leave you alone. I'll be fine, Paul said. No, you're not going to be fine. You're going to unplug yourself or something, kill yourself because you found out you're an electric ant and not a human being. He said presently, maybe so. Maybe it boiled down to that. And I can't stop you, she said. No, he nodded in agreement. But I'm going to stay, Sarah said, even if I can't stop you, because if I do leave and you do kill yourself, I'll always ask myself for the rest of my life what would have happened if I had stayed, you see? Again he nodded. Go ahead, Sarah said. He rose to his feet. It's not pain I'm going to feel, he told her, although it may look like that to you. Keep in mind that the fact that organic robots have minimal pain circuits in them. I will be experiencing the most intense. Don't tell me anymore, she broke in. Just do it if you're going to, or don't do it if you're not. Clumsily, because he was frightened, he wriggled his hand into the micro glove assembly, reached to pick up a tiny tool. A sharp cutting blade. I am going to cut a large tape mounted inside my test panel, he said as he glazed through the enlarging plan system. That's all. His hand shook as if lifted the cutting blade. In a second, it can be done, he realized. All over. And I will have time to fuse the cut ends of the tape back together, he realized. A half hour at least, I will change my mind. He cut the tape, staring at him. Cowering, Sarah whispered, Nothing happened. I have 30 or 40 minutes. He reseated himself at the table, having drawn his hands from the gloves. His voice, he noticed, shook. Undoubtedly, Sarah was aware of it, and he felt anger at himself, knowing that he had alarmed her. I'm sorry, he said irrationally. He wanted to apologize to her. Maybe you ought to leave, he said in panic again. He stood up. So did he. So did she. Reflexively, as if imitating him. Bloated and nervous, she stood there palpitating. Go away, he said thickly. Back to the office, where you ought to be, where we both ought to be. I'm going to fuse the tapes end together, he told himself. The tension is too great for me to stand. Reaching his hand towards the glove, he groped to pull them over his straining fingers. Peering into the enlarging screen, he saw the beam from the photoelectric gleam upward, pointed directly into the scanner. At the same time, he saw the end of the tape disappearing under the scanner. He saw this, understood it. I'm too late, he realized. It has passed through. God, he thought, help me. It has begun, winding at a rate greater than I calculated. So it's now that he saw apples, cobblestones, and zebras. He felt warmth, the silky texture of clothes. He felt the ocean lapping at him and great wind from the north plucking at him as if to lead him somewhere. Sarah was all around him. She was dance man. New York glowed in the night, and the squib about him scuttled and bounced through night skies in daytime, and flooding and draught. Butter relaxed into liquid on his tongue, and at the same time hideous odors and tastes assailed him. The bitter presence of poison and lemon and blades of summer grass. He drowned. He fell. He lay in the arms of a woman in a vast white bed. The warning noise of the defective elevator in one of the ancient, ruined downtown hotels. I'm living. I have lived. I will never live, he said to himself, and with this thought came every word, every sound. Insects squeaked and raced, and he half sank into a complex body of homeostatic machinery located somewhere in Triplin's lab. He wanted to say something to Sarah. Opening his mouth, he tried to bring forth words, a specific string of them, out of the enormous mass of them, brilliantly lighting his mind, scorching him with their utter meaning. His mouth burned. He wondered why. Frozen against the wall, Sarah Benton opened her eyes and saw the curl of smoke ascending from Paul's half-open mouth. Then the Robbie sank down, knelt on elbows and knees, then slowly spread out in a broken, crumpled heap. She knew without examining it that it had died. Paul did it to itself, she realized, and it couldn't feel pain. It said so itself, or at least not very much pain, maybe a little, anyhow. Now it is over. I had better call Mr. Dansman and tell him what happened, she decided. Still shaky, she made her way across the room to the phone, picking it up. She dialed from memory. It thought I was a stimulus factor on its reality tape, she said to herself. So it thought I would die when it died. How strange, she thought. Mr. Dansman, she said, when the circuit to his office had been put through. Pull is gone. It destroyed itself right in front of my eyes. You'd better come over. So we're finally free of it. Yes, won't it be nice? Desmond said. I'll send a couple of men over from the shop we saw past her, made out their sign of pool lying by the kitchen table. You go home and rest, he instructed Sarah. You must be worn out by all this. Yes, she said. Thank you, Mr. Densman. She hung up and stood aimlessly, and then she noticed something.
After all, tomorrow is another day.